Welcome back. We've got Reverend Laddie Thompson, consultant in strategic thinking for NOVAD. And NOVAD is Non-Violence for African Development. Thank you for coming on this morning.
The pleasure is mine.
Well, you know, I was just thinking about this and I thought, look, several times you see some agitations in this country, different people come forward with some ideas, albeit lofty, but at the end of the day, it doesn't look as though they achieve what they really would love to see. So if I could start from there, about this call, we've seen different groups coming up, you also speaking loudly about this. Do you think that at the end of the day, this perhaps will move us to action that will benefit society?
Well, I think we should put it all in the right context. First of all, what you're talking about is that a lot of calls in Nigeria are instinctive and emotive. And that's the reason why we never really get much out of anything. Like somebody commented, the call for restructure seems to mean so many different things to many different people. But if you ask me, if we look at the core issues that are at stake here, Nigeria has come to a point in its development where we have the opportunity to make a quantum leap, to make progress. And I think this opportunity is one that has to be utilized properly, not by emotions, not intuitively, but based on critical thought and having a clear vision as to what we want to achieve.
What are the issues for you?
For me, if we look at the issues very well, I've said one thing that anybody studying Nigeria right now needs to look at it from the perspective of chaos theory, and to look at the fact that Nigeria itself, what we've been managing for decades, is a product of failure engineering. And you need to do a little research and look at the projection of this country, and you would not disagree at all. Failure engineering is best described by, I think there's this Rubik's Cube we used to use in those days, in 1974. Once you unravel the Rubik's Cube, to put it back together again, you could go through 7 generations of people, and they would never be able to. It was a mathematical puzzle designed for you to fail to be able to solve it. It had 43 quintillion possibilities. Now, Nigeria is like that. And we need to understand that when you face failure engineering, the only solution to failure engineering is to know algorithms. And that is where Nigeria is right now. We were designed to fail. The foundation on which Nigeria was set was never a foundation that was built for success.
Do people have this understanding, and perhaps does it dovetail into a possibility of a violent situation?
Well, I don't think, like I said, we are described as a people who are emotive, intuitive, unscientific, and not very capable of critical thought. But if you go and look at some documents called BDIP, British documents on the end of the empire, or you have the opportunity to get to Kew Gardens. I went with the research team some years ago to look at colonial documents, declassified. Now, the interesting thing is that we need to thank Britain, because all Nigeria needs to understand why we are the way we are, what is happening to us right now, is an open secret in the declassified documents, waiting in Britain for anybody to walk in and study. So if you put that together, you would realize that all you are seeing in Nigeria is that, look, if somebody wants you to get a particular result out of you, failure engineering now, there's a kind of foundation he will give you. If you make a foundation for a bungalow and decide to build a 12-story building on it, it's an exercise in futility. And this is what we need to look at as a nation and stop wasting the lives of generation after generation.
What did you find in that research?
Well, I always say something that if you study declassified colonial documents, it is obvious to me that the liberating fathers of Nigeria, Obafemi Awolowo, Nnamdi Ezekwe, and Ahmadu Bello, definitely would have done things differently if they had understood the mind of the colonial lords. But at that time, they didn't have access to their minds. And what happened to Nigeria was this. We don't understand that a foundation after 1,000 years, if it is faulty on day one, will remain faulty after 1,000 years. A foundation is like, a faulty foundation is like a lie. After 2,000 years, it will remain a lie unless somebody comes to address it. Now, when you look into all those documents, it is obvious that Nigeria was not designed to succeed. Divide and rule. All the things that were loaded into the Nigerian core were even commented upon by the liberating fathers. So, why do I use the word liberating fathers? Study the documents, and you will find out that what had happened to Nigeria was that we had a set of people who helped us to gain liberty, but somehow the common opponent that they had transformed himself into the supervisor of their liberty and handed over to them a foundation which was not the foundation that they built. And all we have been doing, and what is showing up the most in Nigeria till today, is the fact that you cannot build a skyscraper on the foundation of a bungalow. It will come out in different ways, and that's why you're hearing the cry for restructure by many people today, forgetting that a structure is in two phases. First is foundation, and then the superstructure. Now, the people who are calling for restructure today, a lot of the calls today are cosmetic. Some know what they are saying. I've been discussing with some people who are at the constitutional conferences in London, you know, in those days, in the 50s, before independence. But I'll tell you that the average person calling for restructure is not even thinking about the foundation. I'll give you a very good example. Nigeria is trying to practice the American style of democracy. If Nigeria goes to learn from the history and the notes of the founding fathers of America, you will take note of all the things they put into place to reverse engineer the corruption that colonialism and enslavement brings to a people. And then you will even see, I'll just give you one example. George Washington, John Jay, and people like the other American founding fathers discussed copiously about salary structures and pay for officials in governance in 1787. And what did they discuss? They pointed out that, look, if a position has the opportunity to give a man wealth and also to give him a lot of honor and respect, men will kill to get to those positions and kill to remain there. So they decided to build firewalls into the American system, which brings us to the fact that Nigeria has to understand something. When those people built their foundation, America is standing today because of what its founding fathers did. In fact, I was bold to say at a meeting with some diplomats a while ago who are American, and I said to them, Nigeria is a classical case of what America would have been without its founding fathers. America for today is not a democracy. Nigeria is making noise about democracy. Half of the people don't realize that America is a democratic republic that has a peculiar foundation. And if you know the amount of thinking, planning, forward planning against 50 years, 100 years, 150 years that went into the foundation of America, you'd realize